welcome everyone at this CIVITAS webinar on urban freight logistics, entitled Making Urban Freight Logistics More Sustainable from Theory to Practice. My name is Tarek van Rooyen and I moderate this webinar. Freight transport in urban areas is a long-standing problem. It is essential to the success of cities and conflicts with other demands, such as, for example, flowing traffic, livable urban environment, pedestrian and cyclist comfort. The CIVITAS thematic group, Urban Freight Logistics, organized this webinar that consists of three different presentations. First, we will look at and discuss more in detail the policy note on urban freight logistics, which is offering also an insight on some selected measures. We continue with one concrete experience from the CIVITAS city of Almada, Portugal, on how to plan and develop an efficient and sustainable urban freight logistics system. This presentation is followed by a presentation on the new CIVITAS Freight Cluster, established for better coordination of urban freight projects at urban level. At the end of each presentation there will be a short Q&A session. Participants can ask questions during the presentations via the chat room on the right of the screen. In the menu you can find it. After the presentations I will end with some conclusions on this webinar, and when there's still time available we can have some more general Q&A with the three presenters. And at 4 o'clock we will end this webinar. This webinar will be recorded, and afterwards it will be placed on YouTube, so you can look back as much times as you like. Let's move on to the first speakers, that are Caterina Di Bartolo and Tito Stefanelli, both from TRT in Italy. To support policymakers and urban mobility practitioners, the CIVITAS Wiki project recently released a policy note, Making Urban Freight Logistics More Sustainable, which condensates successful approaches and solutions particularly addressed to small and medium-sized European cities. In this presentation they will summarize. So the floor is for Tito and Caterina.
Hello everybody, I thank you for participating in this webinar. I'm introducing the presentation about the policy note we have wrote within the CIVITAS Wiki Urban Freight thematic group, and we have started. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, of course.
Yes, but I can't change the slides. Sorry, I don't know why. Okay. Is it okay? Sorry. Yeah. And so, as Tarek has already said before, the freight distribution is a vital part of life in modern cities and plays a very relevant role. But so far it hasn't received much attention, though it has been considered as the least sustainable transport component within the urban context because of its evident negative impacts. In addition, if we look at actual demographic trends, we can see that further challenges are posed towards the urban freight system. If we look at, for example, if we look at the increase in urbanization and on one side, on the pervasive role that information and communication technologies are acting in our society, and last but not least, at the consistent growth of e-commerce. So all these components are making, are posing challenges to the urban freight system, and so there is the need to find solutions and to these externalities. Among all the definitions founded in literature on urban freight logistics, we have chosen the simplest, but also we think the most comprehensive one. Urban freight logistics can be considered as all the movements of goods into, out from, through, or within the urban area made by light or heavy vehicles. These movements include also service transport movements, and such as demolition traffic and construction sites. And also in this definition, waste and reverse logistics is included. Sorry. To talk about some data, urban freight traffic accounts for about 10 to 50% of kilometers traveled in a city. It is estimated that it accounts for about 2 to 5% of the total workforce employed in urban areas, and it is also estimated that about 60% of all transport-related GHG emissions are related to urban freight traffic. And to give a rough idea of the relevance of the sector in an urban context, we can say that about 0.1 delivery or pickup per person per day is performed in a city. This data is referred to economic activity increases to up to 1 delivery or pickup per week per economic activity. And in the city, we can calculate that there are among from 300 to 400 freight vehicle trips for 1,000 persons per day. This is also related to tons, and we can say that about from 30 to 50 tons per person per year are transported in urban context. As we said before, freight distribution is an increasingly important part of modern life, but it also generates negative externalities. So it's not easy to tackle with this trade-off between the economic advantages of an efficient and effective urban freight system on one side, and on the other side, on the various environmental disadvantages that are generated. In particular, for urban areas, the last mile poses the greatest problems in terms of environment and city livability. However, the relevance of these impacts varies according to the city size. There are differences between large conurbations and instead the effects that are registered in small or medium-sized cities. In particular, in CIVITAS, we are focused on this latter kind of cities, so the small and medium-sized. On one side, these cities present some weaknesses, but on the other side, this kind of cities present some strengths. In particular, as far as weaknesses, we can talk about the narrow roads and the lack of loading and unloading areas, which are the main cause for congestion and reduce safety on the roads. And on the other side, typically these smaller cities have lower financial investment capacity, and so this is the main cause for the difficulty to reach the critical mass in such investments. However, on the other side, there are strengths that can be highlighted. In general, in a smaller context, citizens are more active in participation, and this can be an advantage because there are immediate reactions to policies, and it's easier to fine-tune policies according to local needs. And on the other side, the smaller context and the geographic scope is an advantage because the flow of goods is often easier to be controlled. The number of access are restricted. Coming to, we have made an overlook to the stakeholders. Urban freight transport is characterized by many stakeholders. The main reason is, of course, that it takes place in the city. So the city is the central location for flows and activities to interact. Identify 4 categories of stakeholders. The first one is the supply chain actors, who are responsible for sending, carrying, and receiving goods. Then we have public authorities. They determine the urban freight transport possibilities. They set rules, etc. And we distinguish it from public authorities at local level, at national level, and but also at European level. The other category of stakeholders are the resource supply stakeholders. They are essentially the infrastructure providers, infrastructure operators, and providers of vehicles. And finally, there is the last group of stakeholders, which is called the impactees. This is a group mainly consisted by persons who are affected by the urban freight transport, but who do not directly influence or affect it. They are residents or traffic participants, visitors, and tourists. All these stakeholders interact each other, and the result of their interaction can be visualized as in the figure on the right. There are 3 different perspectives for action in the logistic system that also correspond to the different stakes that the various stakeholders have in the urban freight transport. We can distinguish the policy perspective. Policy determines the urban conditions in which urban freight transport operations can take place, so setting time, location, and rules, etc. The technical perspective, which determines on the one hand the available means, so for example vehicles involved in urban freight transport, and on the other hand the means that can be used to plan trips or communicate and to make deliveries more efficient, so information technologies. The last perspective is the mere logistics, and it is related to the operational condition in which urban freight transport occurs, so the location, delivery hours, delivery frequency, means used, etc. Because of the presence of these multiple stakeholders, it is quite clear that the only successful way to foster a real change is through the involvement of all the stakeholders and actors in the urban freight system, and by involving them to then build a consensus-based strategies. This process can be made through a decision-making process that has to be structured and followed, as you can see on the right. So at first, it is essential to definite goals and objectives by setting also key performance indicators. Then it is the causes, the root causes of problems affecting the cities, for example, congestion or lack of safety, on excessive noise, etc., have to be identified, and on these causes, some potential initiatives have to be identified. The selection of these or the initiatives that are mostly suitable to tackle these problems are then identified on the basis of some performance analysis that have to be conducted. Then the implementation phase starts, so an action plan should be prepared and implemented. Also, during the implementation, some monitoring and assessment actions have to be performed in order to fine-tune the measures to the needs. In the next presentation, also Giorgio will focus on these planning aspects. He will provide an insight on the SULP's methodology, so they are the Sustainable Urban Logistic Plans, which has been developed in the ENCLOSE project. Then I give the floor to Tito, who is going on with our presentation.
Okay, you can. Perfect. Here I am. Just one moment. Okay, hi everybody, I'm Tito Stefanelli. I'm a colleague of Caterina from TRT. In this section, in this part of the policy note, we present a selection of possible measures and solutions which are more suitable for small to medium-sized cities. And we classified them into 6 groups that are stakeholder engagement, regulatory measures, market-based measures, land use planning, new technologies, and ecologistics. And for each one of them, we also provide some concrete examples from city with a brief description and some result of each application. In the next slide, I will go through each of this group, trying to explain some possible measures. That is the first group is called the stakeholders engagement, and we know that the freight system is made up of a constellation of actors and stakeholders with different and sometimes conflicting interests. So experience from cities show that cities see encouraging results when they establish constructive networking with retailers and couriers, with all the stakeholders that Caterina explained just a few minutes ago. And this is in order to better design freight schemes and agree on governing rules. Some possible examples of stakeholders engagement should be the freight quality partnerships that aim to bring together public and private transport parties involved all in the freight transport and logistics, and that is in order to discuss problem and trying to identify and implement a possible solution. Other kind of measures could be freight advisory boards and forums, which aims to establish committees, boards, and forums in order to provide an opportunity for all the stakeholders to meet together and discuss the challenges and the opportunities of the freight system. And of course, the designation of a city logistic manager, that is a concept similar to the mobility manager. So the city logistic manager is designed, is think to reproduce demand in relation to the mobility of goods in urban areas. And other measure, other category of measures, other group are regulatory measures, also called the command and control measures. And these are rules and prohibition designed to control all the activities of the private freight operators in order to preserve the livability of the urban environment, and so to guarantee an adequate level of mobility inside the urban area. And it is important, by our opinion, to say that these measures are usually, easier to implement by the city authorities, and they are also likely to have a higher degree of acceptability among all the stakeholders. Some kind of measures may be time asset restriction, and these measures, it depends obviously on the context of the city that they are going to be implemented. So there can be daytime delivery restriction or totally daytime delivery bans, and also nighttime delivery bans could be, or the opposite, silent deliveries during night with silent bans or something like this. Other kind of measures could be parking regulation, and that are restriction in loading and parking from freight vehicles, or some new kind of system with the application of the ITS is could be vehicle parking reservations or timeshare or parking space, or peak hour clearways, and in this case it means that during some hours of the day, normally during peak hours, parking is not allowed in some streets, in the busy streets. Other regulatory measures are environmental restriction with the emission standard, or the engine-related restriction, noise or program regulation, or the institution of low emission zones. Or other measures could be size and load access restriction or freight flow management, and these rules impose a special restriction to the transportation in the network that cannot be used by the freight traffic. And the next group is the market-based measures. Market-based measures are intended to intervene in relation to delivery cost, with the aim of using the price mechanism to pursue the operators in their customers to change their transport behavior. In fact, we know that changes in prices have been proven to have a direct effect on the behavior of freight industry operators. Some kind of measures of market-based measures could be pricing, such as the road pricing, congestion charging, and parking charges. Taxation and tax allowances. Taxation that could be imposed on vehicle emissions, fuels, or vehicle ownership or use. By contrast, tax allowances can be applied to purchase new vehicles, new green vehicles. There are also measures, sometimes very difficult to be applied, that are tradable permits and mobility credits. These measures involve the introduction of pricing schemes based on the mobility credits model in order to reduce the high level of congestion and pollution in busy city center. Other kind of measures under these groups could be incentives and subsidies that are the opposite of taxation and tolls. And it is the use of incentives and subsidies in order to encourage the development of sustainable urban distribution. The third group of measures is called land use planning and infrastructure measures, the fourth group, sorry. Land use planning measures could change the private use of the space in urban areas for public good, although this can only be achieved with a consistent policy over a longer period due to the time it takes to change existing land use patterns. And let me say that due to this high cost of planning, implementing, and maintaining transport infrastructure in urban areas, and their perception of being for the public good, city authorities are often the only actors willing to be able to fund this implementation. And reaching sometimes a break-even point may take a long time, particularly to achieve a critical mass of freight volume handled. And this is some kind of measures are adapting on street loading zones. These are measures to focus on allocating adequate curb space in parking, the using of a building code of the new construction for off-street deliveries. And this these measures involve the use of building code regulation to ensure that new business premises provide adequate space for goods handling and storage. There are also nearby delivery areas, the integrating logistics planning into the land use planning. City authorities should develop urban logistic plans. As Caterina said, the next presentation from Giorgio Ambrosino will go through this kind of plan. and this topic is very important in medium-sized city. Other important kind of measures are collection points, and this initiative promotes the use of a specific location for pickup and delivery, such as on-street automated locker system, parcel shop or post offices, as well mini depots. And last but not least, the urban consolidation centers that are very important. They should be very important in our city center, and they will promote the consolidation of cargo shipments at one or more urban terminals. New technologies measures are another kind of measure that could be applied while planning urban logistics. The use of an intelligent transport system can be exploited to allow freight vehicles drivers to adopt for alternative routes in response to information received regarding urban network condition, such as congestion. Some kind of measure could be dynamic routing. A dynamic routing system should be used by public authorities to enhance safety and to prevent violations of access restriction. There are also real-time information systems, which are a set of technologies and strategies that can help to monitor and manage traffic based on real-time traffic information in terms of road safety, reduction of congestions, regulatory compliance, and supply chain information. And there are also traffic controls that are strategies to monitor and control, also with the aid of variable vessel signs and equipment and other devices. The last group is ecologistic awareness raising. Ecologistic measures are intended to promote eco-friendly and hopefully economic sustainability in urban distribution. Some kind of measures could be anti-idling, and these measures are focused on the reduction of pollution caused by idling of trucks engines. There are eco-driving. There are a lot of projects, European projects, about eco-driving, and they are going to improve the delivery efficiency and the energy consumption with a special regard to environmental impacts and safety for all the road users. There are modal shift measures that aim to a modal shift program to encourage the use of alternative modes, such as cargo trikes, cargo bikes, to reduce the numbers of trucks and vans in the city centers. And there are also recognition and certification programs that are schemes structured in various ways that aim to addressing the main aspects of company operation, such as driver skills, driver management, and so on. So a lot of measures are presented. Sorry, ecologistics here. There are a lot of measures, and for each one in the policy note you can find some examples from cities. And what are some conclusion and recommendation from all of these words I said? And most important is that it is not possible to identify one solution, one good solution. It is essential to define several options based on the specific features of each urban context. So as we are planning urban logistics, we may choose a selected blend of the measures I already presented. It is important to say that the public sector must play a key role, and it should be a catalyst of the various stakeholders, and the support of additional external expertise can be of great help, and long-term coordination with the different stakeholders is one of the building pillars of this strategy. So this is the last slide of my presentation, of our presentation. And here are some details of where you can download the policy note. And so that's all. Thank you to all for listening us.
Well, thank you, Caterina and Tito, for this very comprehensive presentation. I would, looking at the time, I would like to continue directly with the second speaker, and that is Giorgio Ambrosini from MEMEX in Italy. He will inform us on the Sustainable Urban Logistics Plan, and more particular, the case of Almada in Portugal.
Giorgio?
Good afternoon. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, we can. Press F5 so you can start your presentation.
Mostra. It's okay.
F5. No, we can.
Okay.
No, se premi F5 fai partire la presentazione.
Ah, ok. Sorry. Now?
No, I can see. Okay.
Now it's okay?
No. Try to F5. Start the presentation.
Now?
No.
Try to...
I made the proof this morning.
Yeah, we know. As usually. Vai su presentazione e fai
Now?
start presentation. Brightness down, no. Vai col tasto su presentazione. Sul menu in alto, magari.
Sì.
Ecco, perfetto.
Okay.
Perfetto.
Sorry for the delay. Good afternoon. I will present my presentation is based on from one side the approach to the development of sustainable urban logistic plan, and we give some idea how is what in Almada city was made on sustainable urban logistic plan. Almada is located in front of Lisbona. It's a medium town and is a town close related to the Lisbon metropolitan area. It's clearly it's the other side of the 25 April bridge of Lisbon. Some people know Lisbona, and it's a proximity to Lisbona. They have a lot of commuter traffic, not only by car, but in the bridge there is more than 170,000 vehicles by day. But there is also a lot of other modality transport based on ferries and bus. And there is also a high demand of tourism and also internal and external tourism, because there is the beach and there is also the whole part of Almada is in front of Lisbona. That you have in this slide. You have some data. Almada joined the enclosed project. The enclosed project was ended in February of this year and was focused on the problems related to city logistics in small and medium-sized European historic town, as Tito and Caterina introduced. And the city in the project was nine cities that want to work together on analyze the problems of related city logistics and to find the solution. The main results I wanted to underline was from one side there was real results. Related pilot service in some cities that have already experience in city logistics, like Lucca, Trondheim, and Den Bosch. And the implementation of soft measure, we indicate the soft measure, the measure that don't need great investment in terms of economic aspect, but are solutions that could be related, for example, a new rules for assessing the town. And this measure was set up, implemented in six cities. One of these was Almada. In parallel, the city started to develop a sustainable urban logistics plan. For developing the urban logistics plan, we define a common methodology that I gave now some 2 slides. It's clearly in the project there was great exchange of experience and training course, because the city, the follower city, wanted to learn from the pilot city, and a promotion of this solution. I wanted to underline that the project, from the point of view of the city and public authority. We stated from the beginning that more clearly idea of the solution the city has, more easy could be the job of a transport operator. For this, as I told before, we develop a common methodology for define the logistic plan, the sustainable urban logistics plan, you know, and we define this methodology and the guideline. For setting this plan means to work at the institutional and political level, to involve the different stakeholders, as Caterina indicated, to define and to design the feasibility of suitable service, among which the stakeholders, the municipality can choose the more indicated to the requirement of the cities, to define also the organization operation level, supporting condition, the infrastructure and the technology level, as Tito indicate, and also to define the business model and the economic aspect. The approach of the methodology was bottom-up. I think that this methodology is not too much different of many other methodologies that are on the table. The problem of city logistics, like the problem of a mobility plan, is to realize the study and to implement the solution. And we define the SULP as part of the sustainable urban mobility plan, devoted to the city logistics issues. I will go very fast. You can find the methodology, the PDF, on the enclosed website. More or less, this scheme is a synthesis of I said before. We should define the baseline of the cities by interview, by collection information, and we should identify the suitable service, measure infrastructure for each of these, to define the organization dimension, the business model, the assessment of the impact and the responsibility. And on this, the cities should discuss, should define with the stakeholder of the city, and should create a consensus on some of the most suitable service, and then there will be the promotion plan and the roadmap for adopting this SULP from local administration. You know, I go very fast that the SULP, we define 11 elements, more or less like the element that Caterina presented. For each of these, we define the directionable, the task and the timing and the method, and we made some box with example as the 9 cities they develop this element. I go very, for example, the second element is the analysis of the logistic context approaches. Is clearly that you should analyze the current logistic situation, and by a different level of activity, the desk for the collection data about the content, the infrastructure, and also the survey with the definition survey, the interview, and so on. Returning to enclose, to Almada, that was considered enclosed follower city, Almada City, the part of the old part of the city, where there is the major part of the urban area, there is 100,000 inhabitants. Here you have some indication of the rules that they have. They have also regulation for the time window allowing the logistic operation, and there is a relevant pedestrian area, and also a zone where there is a restriction of the speed up to 20 km/h. You know, this is the reference area of the study. There is the inner center of Almada. That here there is the bridge. Here there is the Lisbon, and there is the ferry Casillas, where is the ferry station. You have an idea of the transport system of Almada based on 2 lines of tram, on a bus network, and also the ferry that connect Almada with Lisbon. This is the figure of related to logistics. More or less there are more than 1,000 freight vehicles by day. In this zone there is more of 2,000 shops. In this table you find the classification of the shop. In total, there are more than 2,000 delivery by day, and as I told you, there is only a specific normative rules for the commercial vehicle. That there is the time window, and clearly also the load and unload area where they are signed for making the operation. You know, which are the problems? I think that as we saw in all the project, in all the 9 towns, the problem are more or less the same. That the transport operator don't know the rules for assessing the city. There is not enough load and unload parking lots. I should say that in other cities this problem is some cities that where we work they are the reverse of this problem. There is clearly a high level of abusive occupation of the load and unload parking lots, and as in the town, there is a high level of own account transport. That is the operation that the shopkeepers made for collecting the goods for its shop. You know, there is also another problem due to the mini market, because there is a lot of big truck that in the morning they go to provide goods to the mini market that you can see in the photo, some of this truck, and at the end there is also the problem in the inner center of the vegetable fish market that is a center also of the illegal parking around the fish market. You know, following the methodology, Almada defined different kind of measure, and this measure was designed and evaluated. First of all, they decide to realize the pickup point, like the pack station that you see below in these figures. You know, to be located in the depots. In the depots there is also the service of the demand responsive transport service. That this means that the pickup point is in controlled area. There is also the second measure was the reorganization of Almada market area, with the possibility that the shopkeeper should park its van in the depots, because there is very near to the market, and the shopkeepers make the transfer of the goods on other system like bike or like electric. Yes, transferred. I don't know in English the terms. Then Almada work on the extension of the rules. That they work on the definition of the new regulation for the commercial vehicle. They define the rules. Discussing with all the stakeholders, and they implement these rules in the district of Casillas. That is the district where there is also the terminal of the tram and also the station of the ferries. Last, they define and design the UCC. I wanted to give a focus on the UCC, because you know the UCC is a solution that is very discussed in this time. I wanted to say that in the enclosed there was Trondheim, Den Bosch, and Lucca. They already manage the UCC. It's clearly that each UCC has its history. The Lucca port of Lucca, it's clearly is motivated by different needs and requirements than in Almada. But the scheme that the UCC design in Almada follow the scheme that the classical scheme follow in Lucca. That the long-range transport operator will leave the goods, and these goods for the last mile was delivered by the electric fleet. We saw in Lucca that it's clearly the level of productivity of the UCC is directly proportional to the level of rules. It's clearly more close are the rules, more heavy are the rules, more productivity we have in UCC. The UCC, they made the last mile and also the cross-docking service. And also in the UCC could be defined not only as a final destination of a transport operator, but also the final destination of the delivery of the shop. The shopkeeper could give to the transport operator the address of the UCC for collecting as last destination of the ordered goods. I would like to underline at the beginning of the project, among the 6 follower towns, all the 6 follower towns want to realize the UCC. After 2 years of the job, and after to define each town its sustainable urban logistic plan, SULP, only 1 town continued to decide to realize the UCC. It was Almada. For this, we made the feasibility of UCC. The UCC was located near the main road of the connection with Almada and the other side, and near to the inner center. There was the first hypothesis you can see here, the first hypothesis of the platform and the dimension, and we define, but I will define also other different service, not only the last mile service. There was more or less an evaluation of the cost. We define the cost, the investment cost was analyzed for the infrastructure and equipment, more or less around 300,000 euro. You see for what here. That was define the starting operation cost for staff, vehicle renting. For example, in Almada, we decided to rent the vehicle and not to buy the vehicle, and this cost was estimated around 200 euro. As you see, the hypothesis was one initial staff, one administrative, and so on. And then we work for understanding which is the level of delivery needed for the break-even, and this was the around 120 delivery by day. Here, under operation assumption, you see our assumption, for example, that the cost of 6 euro for delivery is more or less an average cost that we saw in other experience. We made a low estimation of trip day for two vehicle, and then we calculate the break-even that could cover the operational cost. It's clearly that if the UCC could made other kind of service, and now I show you, could be that the UCC can survive. You know, and then I show you, for the management at the beginning was planned that the municipality could manage the UCC by its parking company, that Ecalma is the Almada parking company, totally owned by the Almada municipality, you know. After this solution, they should understand the level of this management, and they could evaluate if they could manage in-house the UCC, or to make a procurement for a partnership. You know, in Lucca currently there is a procurement for the management of Lucca Port.
Giorgio, can you come to an end of the presentation?
Yes. Sorry if I go. What I said before, you know, we think that, and one of the results of enclosed, but also we saw in the feasibility of Almada UCC, that making only the last mile delivery service is not sufficient for the UCC survival. You see here some other possibility of the service, for example, the third party warehousing with on-demand delivery, and also to check that the delivery service extension, that this means not making the service only on the urban area but also in the surrounding. Okay, I wanted to finish with some consideration. You know, the Sustainable Urban Mobility Plan is a gradual process depending on the needs and the characteristics of the town. There is no solution, not the same solution or model for each town. We should analyze and define the requirement of the town. Don't mean to have advanced system or heavy infrastructure, or making a great investment, but to start from the existing infrastructure, and mainly on acting on city regulation in terms of parking, access, mobility policy, and also acting on incentive for the adoption of clean vehicle or sharing pooling scheme, for example, for their own account, you know. And last but not least is to create, as Caterina say, a permanent forum among the different social and economic actors. You know, the problem is always to keep simple the approach. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, George. It's always nice to...
Sorry, you know that in the next month there will be the 9 SULP of the nine city on the enclosed website.
Well, thanks. It's always good to see that theory is also really used in practice, and that's the case with the enclosed project. Let's move on to our final speaker, and that's Giacomo Lozzi from Polis. He will tell something on the CIVITAS Freight Cluster. He's employed at Polis, city network in Brussels, and this cluster consists of the new CIVITAS projects that have been granted in the field of urban freight logistics. Please, Giacomo, go ahead.
Good afternoon. Can you see my presentation?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm Giacomo Lozzi, I'm project officer at Polis. We are the European network of cities and regions working together for innovative and sustainable urban mobility solutions. And as Tariq said, I'm here to present the CIVITAS Freight Cluster, which is a group composed of the 4 CIVITAS urban freight projects funded by the European Horizon 2020 program. One of the objectives of this cluster is to actively engage with this CIVITAS thematic group. So for this reason, Caterina and Tito are kindly hosting us in this webinar. The 4 projects, are CityLab, Novelog, Success, and U-Turn. So during the last CIVITAS Forum in Ljubljana last October 2015, we set up a strategy agreement with the European Commission to explore the possibilities of cooperation among these new CIVITAS projects, to identify concrete topics of mutual interest, a possible form of cooperation among the projects, and common products and outcomes joint produced joint by the 4 projects. We as Polis are involved in 2 of these projects, CityLab and Novelog, and we will act as the main repository and disseminator of this group. So these are the 4 projects: CityLab, Novelog, Success, and U-Turn. I will just briefly go through the project, but the important thing is that all these projects give the possibility for external stakeholders and local authorities to be involved in the project activities. This is possible through dedicated pools or groups or platforms. So if you're interested in a particular topic addressed by one of the or more projects, please contact us, and we will try to involve you in the best possible way. So CityLab will understand the impact of freight distribution and service trip by testing and implementing innovative urban freight solutions. I don't go through the topics because we don't have time, but I will circulate these slides so you can then better understand what are the main activities. Novelog, the main objective is to understand the urban freight distribution and service trips by providing guidance to implement effective policies and solutions for sustainable city logistics. So these first 2 projects are generally addressing, in one case, innovative solution, and the other case trying to provide guidance from a local authority perspective. Then Success will explore and test efficient solutions regarding various issues in construction supply chain, so we'll focus on construction and material freight logistics in urban area. And U-Turn will focus on innovative solutions for urban food logistics to bring about environmental and societal benefits. So this group will undertake these key activities together, but I would like just to focus now on the principal ongoing activities, which are the EU-US cooperation in urban logistics, because during the CIVITAS Forum, the project coordinators and dissemination managers provided input to the Commission for 2 documents to be shared with them. One is a scientific action plan to identify the topics and concrete actions to be addressed in the framework of the EU-US twinning relationship. And then we are preparing dissemination action plan for a US delegation to Europe, because now there's this twinning relationship in place promoted by the European Commission, in particular by DG Move, to discuss common topics and share tasks and deliverables with these selected urban freight projects from US. Then we are contributing to the European guidelines on urban logistics, and the first step was taking place in the first stakeholder consultation meeting, which took place in Brussels last 30 November. And this guidelines consists of 6 non-binding guidelines documents on different aspects of urban logistics, and will be prepared by the European Commission within 18 months. So we will try to align the research activities in our projects to find a direct link with the topic chosen by the Commission. And then there will be an expert group on no, there's an expert group actually on urban mobility set up by the Commission last October 2014, and it's composed of national experts from the 28 member states, which meet each 6 months, every 6 months. And next meeting will be in January 2016 and will focus on urban freight. We as group will be invited to present the results achieved so far in our projects, and we will receive feedbacks by these national experts. So thank you for your attention. If you have any news now or even for further collaboration, you can write us, and then we will address you to the interesting project. Thank you for your attention.
Well, thank you, Giacomo, for this good overview of the new project on city freight logistics. Looking at the time, I would like to conclude this webinar. The ones who proposed questions, those will be answered separately after this webinar, most probably by email. I would like to summarize this webinar. We learned that there's not one simple solution, but the solution is always some sort of puzzle to come to a tailor-made solution that really helps the cities. And we saw in the first presentation a broad overview of city freight logistics. We learned that stakeholder involvement is really important, and also a very useful list of measures that was discussed that could be implemented in the cities. In the presentation afterwards, we saw that with a sustainable urban logistics plan, you could that could be used in cities to improve their urban freight logistics. And it's good to see, especially the case that Almada, that's still one urban consolidation center of the project exists in Almada. So I would like to say thanks all for listening, and we look forward to see you at another CIVITAS webinar. Bye bye.